in their back pocket, just like Bernie Madoff did. He had all these guys bought off. He married off, his daughter to one of the regulators, and they bribed these guys. But yeah, a lot of firms aren't going to get started. A lot of smaller firms are going to go out of business because they can't survive the regulatory onslaught. And all of this is music to the ears of these too big to fail firms that are going to get a lot bigger and make a lot more money off the backs of the American people.
Yeah, this is Veritas. That's the heart of it. And you explain that to some socialist liberal, they'll actually understand that. We'll be right back with Peter Schiff, our guest running for Senate in Connecticut. Stay with us. Schiff4senate.com is the website. We've got it up on screen for PrisonPundit.tv viewers. And of course, his big claim to fame is Ron Paul's main presidential advisor for his presidential campaign on the economy. And he, of course, predicted a lot of what has now unfolded. I want to, before he leaves us, we've got another 35 minutes left with him, get back into how he sees the situation with the economy unraveling. They're now starting to admit we're in a depression, not just a double-dip recession, so we'll get his take on that. In fact, let's just get your take more on the economy right now, because that's what you're really an expert on. Where do you see things going? They're now not just calling it a double-dip recession.
Well, I've been calling it a depression since it began, and it's going to be an inflationary depression. That's going to make it that much more depressing for most Americans. And it's not because of reasons, but Paul Krugman is saying. He says we're going to have a depression because the government isn't doing enough. It's that it's doing too much. That's why we're going to have a depression. The government is starving the economy of the resources that it needs to grow and produce and provide employment opportunities. You see, we can't try to return to the ways things were while the bubble was inflating. That was the problem. We have to return to an economy based on underconsumption, savings, production, capital investment, entrepreneurship. But that can't be that happen as long as the government is stimulating. The government is trying to get us to spend more. Well, we're broke. All the stimulus is we'll get Americans to buy more cars. We can't even afford the cars we own. We have big buy more houses. Why? We bought too many houses. We're not in trouble because we didn't spend enough. We're in trouble because we didn't save enough. We spent too much. So we've got to save our money so that businesses can invest and grow the economy. But the government won't let that happen. The government is borrowing everything. People say the banks aren't loaning. They're sitting on the money. They are loaning it. They're loaning it to the government. They're borrowing from the Federal Reserve at practically nothing and then buying treasuries and earning a spread on money they don't even have. But the credit is funding the growth of government, which is undermining our economy. It's making our economy less productive, less able to compete. It's destroying opportunities.
Well, Peter, you say that they don't know what they're doing, but when California raised taxes in the last few years and tax receipts went down, that's 101. They know Kennedy cut taxes in certain brackets up to 50% in 61, and tax receipts doubled. They know carbon taxes kill jobs. They know every government job takes 2 private sector jobs. They know green jobs in Spain stalled their economy. So what's their answer? More government, more taxes.
Right. Well, as I said before, the government wants to perpetuate poverty and dependency because that's how they feed. They're like a parasite. That's what they live off of, our misery, because if they can keep us broke, then they can keep getting our votes. If they can dole out money that we depend on, then they can have our votes because you're going to vote against anybody who wants to take away that free lunch. But the reality is, without all this government help, we'd all be better off. It's like Harry Brown used to say, the government is an expert at crippling you, then handing you a crutch and saying, see, without me, you couldn't walk.
Well, you did say 4 or 5 years ago we were going into a depression. You did say 2.5 years ago this is a depression. So you've been dead on. So I'm asking you, sir, with your own financial planning, with your own research, where do you see America in 6 months, a year out, 2 years out? How bad is this depression going to get?
Well, right now we're still drinking the government alcohol, the stimulus alcohol. So for a while, we don't feel the ill effects of what we're doing as we go deeper into debt. But I think sometime soon, I don't know if it's in 6 months or a year or two, but we're going to see a collapse in the dollar. We just saw a downgrade today of U.S. government debt by rating agencies in China. We're going to start to see an aversion to U.S. government debt around the world, and the dollar's going to plunge. Interest rates are going to soar, and then this recession is going to kick into, or depression, a higher gear. And at that point, the government's going to be forced with a very, very uncomfortable choice to create massive inflation or default on its promises. And my fear is that we will choose the inflation route because it's more politically expedient, and then we will have runaway inflation. We will destroy the value of our money, and we will create misery on a scale never experienced before in this country, something worse than our grandparents endured during the Great Depression. And we don't have a lot of time to head this off. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't be running for the United States Senate. If I didn't think the situation was that dire, believe me, there are better things I can do with my time than try to convince 99, senators, to change course.
Well, I want to talk about the campaign. Give us some of the key dates coming up for you to be able to win the Senate in Connecticut.
Well, the big key date is the primary, which is August 10th. If I don't win the Republican primary, then I'm not part of the election. I'm not going to run as an independent or a libertarian. If I can't win the Republican nomination, I'm not going to run. And so it's a three-person race right now. I'm in third, but, I can win. I mean, if you look at the polls, my favorables are 10 times my unfavorables. Nobody else is close. The only reason I'm not winning is because enough people don't know who I am. The people who know who I am overwhelmingly support me. So that's where your audience can help out. There's two things that they can do.
Well, stay there. Well, long segment coming up with Peter Schiff, Schiff4Senate.com. We're going to talk about how you can win the Senate from Connecticut when we come back, how we can capture that lightning in a bottle that we saw with Rand Paul. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Well, I think I see another side.
Peter Schiff is our guest. We're going to take some phone calls for him and also talk about where he stands on issues for people around the country that want to support him, and also people in Connecticut. This key primary coming up, and we see anti-incumbent candidates being elected everywhere, winning primaries, winning special elections. We're going to talk about the political realignment in a moment, and we'll talk about some of Peter Schiff's views. But I wanted to hit a few headlines here. This is a Paul Joseph Watson story up at GCNlive.com. Former contractor, BP not interested in cleaning up oil spill. What an amazing story. And we've got that video clip also posted in the article. Former high-level BP contractor, Army Special Operations soldier, Adam Dillon, told a New Orleans television station that British Petroleum is not interested in cleaning up oil spill because the company is run by cutthroat individuals who only care about money. And it goes on from there. That's just one of the stories that's up at GCNlive.com. Another article that's up there dealing with the viral video I put out Thursday. LeBron Nation. Americans hypnotized as country collapses. Program zombies get hysterical about basketball while their future is being destroyed because that's what's valuable to them. They know all about football, basketball, all about Hollywood stars, all about the latest controversy, but nothing about what's happening in this nation. So that's also up at GCNlive.com and PrisonPlanet.com. There's also been 6 killed, 4 injured, including the gunman, after a shooting spree in Albuquerque company. They say it's not terror-related and that his wife worked there and he previously worked there. So more stress out there in society. Our prayers go out to those that have been killed. Okay, Peter, I'd like to run through your where you stand. But first off, your chance of winning. We've seen a lot of Patriot-type candidates come from nowhere and win. And we see, again, everywhere, whether it's Spectre or the person that Rand Paul was running against being a neocon or whatever, we see these establishment people losing to patriots everywhere in almost every primary or special election we've seen. So I think that's why your candidacy is extremely viable. What's your view on that?
I think I'm very viable if people know me. My story is very compelling. I mean, if you go to the website Schiff4Senate.com and just watch the 4-minute video, Who is Peter Schiff, that's on the home page. I mean, as people find my story, the one guy that was warning about the financial crisis on television, nobody would listen to him. Everybody laughed at him. I mean, it's perfect. We have an economic crisis on our hands, yet the people who caused it are still in charge. Why not send one of the only people that predicted it to Washington? My business background, I mean, it makes perfect sense. That's why when people know about me, they support me. But the Republican Party establishment is afraid of my winning this campaign, so they're doing whatever they can to try to marginalize me, to ignore me in the campaign. But, it's a small state. there's only going to be about, let's say, 100,000 people who are going to vote in the Republican primary. And, we can get to those people. There's two ways that people that are listening to this show can help me. One, they can go to SchiffforSenate.com and make a donation. We need a lot of money now to be able to afford the media that we need to win in the closing weeks of the primary. So I need donations. So you can donate personally. You can talk to your friends about donating. But if once you've donated all that you can, if you can donate some of your time every day for the next month to my phone banking system, right on the front page of my website, there's a big Liberty Bell that flashes back and forth for dialing. If you click on that and follow the instructions, you can phone bank. You can call an 800 number from a landline, and then it's totally free. All the long-distance charges are taken by the campaign, and you don't even have to dial. The program will dial for you, and it's only dialing registered Republicans in the state of Connecticut. And if voicemail picks up, you just push a button and it will leave a message from me about my campaign. If a live person answers, then you just talk. You tell them about Peter Schiff, and then you go on to the next call. There are some people, one person made over 800 calls themselves on Saturday. I'm giving out prizes every day, free autographed copies of my book for the people who make the most calls. Yesterday's winner made 310 calls.